We're going to start with my favorite bill of the last month, which I've watched on TV many times. Thank you, Senator Ricciardi. HB 467. Do I have a motion?
Ought to pass.
Do I have a second? Discussion?
Second.
No, I already got a second, but that's okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
We
Any
have an-
discussion? Do you want to tell me why it's good? I've talked with many of the players, but I'd rather you, just a little discussion, 1 minute why it's a good amendment about,
Well,
now we'll vote on the bill and then add it, the amendment.
We'll vote on the amendment.
first and then the
Yeah.
bill.
Okay, tell me about your amendment, Senator.
Well, we just had all the parties collectively work together, which is what I think is always the best thing to do. It also complies with federal law so that the disabled individuals will be able to access the playground with the proper materials.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
So I just want to play devil's advocate for Senator Innes, who isn't here at the moment. So, and I'm in favor of your bill, your amendment and the bill as is, but tell me about the impervious surface. So Senator, no, I just wanted to ask you a question. So is he's going to say it can break down and the rubber is going to be a detriment to the land? Do you have an answer for the materials we're putting down? I like the bill so I can get there and people like me can have access to it. But the fear on the other side is that a rubber or another material could break down and pollute.
Well, they're not saying that you have to use rubber. They're just using a surface that you can access if you have a wheelchair.
Okay.
The big concern from some of the opposition was about the lack of use of the wood chips, but we've remedied that. You can use that in other areas of the playground.
Great.
Does that
Thank you.
answer?
Yeah,
Okay.
I just wanted to hear it and that's good.
Okay.
Senator, so I should need to have to bring forth the amendment. So your amendment for, let's see, 1337S. All in
I
favor?
would second the amendment and
Thank
just
you.
say thanks to Senator Ricciardi for doing a lot of
Thank
good
you for
work
doing a ton of
with
work.
the
on
various
talking.
parties to get us to a place where I think we can all feel comfortable.
Thank you.
Thank you. All in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
All opposed? You guys have it on the underlying bill.
Move on to pass as amended.
Thank you, Senator. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Consent?
Second. I'll second. Good. All in favor of consent?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much.
Senator
Senator
Ricciardi.
Ricciardi.
would you
I'll
like to
take it out.
Yes.
Thank
She
you.
did so
Thank you.
much work.
Okay.
Thank you, Senator, again for all your work. Let's see. We'll save that for last. We'll save that for second last. Actually. We're gonna go with HB 584 on UCC change. Do I have a motion?
Move on to pass?
Second?
Any discussion?
Um,
And we do have knowledgeable people in the room.
Senator Innes did present an amendment, correct?
He did, yeah.
1692S?
Are you familiar with the amendment?
Yeah.
Come on up. We're just gonna listen to,
I move the amendment for discussion.
thank you, second.
Thank you for the opportunity to explain this amendment. So I'll back up to the origins of adopting UCC Article 12. This committee passed House Bill 1503 last year. And at the time, we knew it was a nearly finalized draft of the brand new UCC Article 12 that deal with digital assets. And so we knew that there would be some cleanup, a housekeeping bill coming this year. It was actually a recommendation in the Governor's Commission on Digital Assets. It's in the report. It's number 5.3. So 584 was in response to that. And what happened recently in the news, and that's what this amendment is addressing, is the governor of South Dakota, Kristi Noem, vetoed their version their complete version of UCC Article 12 because they were concerned about it allowing for a central bank digital currency, which you probably heard that's making news. Recently, the governor of Florida, in the last few days, signed a bill banning CBDCs from the state of Florida. So we're fortunate to have a person named Chuck Mooney, who was on the original drafting committee of the Uniform Law Commission. He moved recently to Amherst, so he's a local now. And he guided this amendment through OLS. And the purpose of the amendment is to make definition changes to give a CBDC least favored status. So one thing that it does is it strikes the definition. So this amendment was only needed recently based on news events. And the ULC is concerned that the CBDC issue might prevent other states from adopting all the hard work they did on Article 12. And so these are definitional changes to give a CBDC least favored status. And it does so by doing a couple of things. It strikes the definition of electronic money. It changes the definition of money. If you look on page 3, line 23, it excludes electronic money from the definition of money. And just here's a little aside. So money is tangible, right? It's coins and bills that you can, if I have them and I give them to you, now that control transfers from me to you in the physical space. Electronic currency, the same thing happens, but it happens virtually. So the UCC came up with this idea of a controllable electronic record, which is based on, I won't go into it, but it's based on cryptography, deciding who controls those tokens. So it sort of mimics the physical world. So they came up with this idea of a controllable electronic money, or sorry, a controllable electronic record. And so you'll see, let me just see if I can find it here.
Was it page 2?
It could be controllable payment intangible. That's one place that it's designed, that it's there. But it excludes a CBDC from a controllable electronic record. So it would give it a least favored status, which would be just a general intangible. And you lawyers would know the definition of a general intangible better than me, but it excludes a CBDC from a controllable electronic record. So basically it addresses the issues that Governor Noem and Governor DeSantis had with this bill, and it helps other states adopt this. And it also, when the governor goes to sign it, he doesn't have to explain that this is going to open the way for a central bank digital currency, that our state would take our time and deliberate on whether or not we think that's a good idea at a future date. So hopefully that answers your questions.
Mr. Chairman, may I?
Go ahead,
speak?
yes.
I just wanted to say for anyone listening and for the other committee members that it is a very complicated issue. So I put a lot of effort into it to make sure I understood what we were doing. And I did try to go through the banking industry, but where I really ended up getting the feeling confident enough to pass this was through the Secretary of State. And the Secretary of State has reviewed the amendment and put their seal of approval on it. So I just wanted everyone to be clear about that.
Thank you, Senator. Any other questions, thoughts? I think I understand what you're doing. I think I understand the USCC better. I don't agree with your treating, I don't like digital assets. I don't really think cryptocurrency is any more than when they traded tulips back in the 1500s. So, but that's me. But you're just, all you're doing here is regulating how they do it. The fact that I don't value it doesn't mean anything. But
Yeah,
so you're regulating this asset, and that's all you're doing, which I may not consider an asset.
So Article 12 is already in our statutes.
Yeah.
And the original 584 was just a cleanup to bring us up to the current version. And this amendment responds to recent news events
Yep.
where there's some issues with worrying about a CBDC, that we didn't have, it didn't happen while the bill was in the House. It happened since we passed it from the House, so.
I understand what you're doing, so I'm
All right. And I'll just, for the record, we had a digital asset bill back in 2017
Yep.
in this room, and Senator Innes said, full disclosure, I own Bitcoin. So I thought that was pretty interesting way back in 2017, so.
Gotcha. I think I was there.
I own a little Bitcoin, if that's necessary, Mr. Chair.
What's that?
I own a little Bitcoin.
Okay, good for you.
Yeah, I just for full disclosure.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you. That is good. I do not. I like gold, but I'm an old fashioned guy. Okay. Thank you very much. That helped. Where are we here? Have we moved anything? Yep. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Move on to pass as amended.
Second. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. I begrudge on that.
Consent?
Consent. Yeah, we do have 5. I keep thinking this isn't here.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good.
I'll take it out if it's on
Okay, yeah,
consent.
great. You want to pick one? Sure. You understand the whole thing, sure. Good.
Okay.
Not really.
You have trust.
It's all right.
Let's see.
No, I was told to come down here. No, I'm kidding.
Well, either one of these will be problems. Okay. We're going to now address HB 150.
Move on to pass.
Second.
Okay, discussion?
I would recommend inexpedient to legislate, and I'd like to speak to my reasons for that.
Sure.
Reducing the number of members needed to qualify for the establishment of collective bargaining units will result in every union requiring significant resources from the municipality to negotiate a contract. Each year, that reduces the ability of small municipalities to remain flexible and nimble in an ever-changing public service environment. And a union agreement would necessitate the town to negotiate any change in working conditions, such as imposition of body-worn cameras. A union in place would require the town to negotiate a hiring bonus to attract new employees. And the towns that are medium to large, that already have negotiate several union contracts, like in my hometown of Bedford, police, fire, Department of Public Works, may now end up having to negotiate supervisor unions for each of those 3 bargaining units, as supervisors are now salaried. And this will seek to form additional unions. This could also cause a lot of, the town would have to negotiate even more contracts, 6 instead of 3, resulting in excessive costs for labor attorneys and staff time. And I have a lot of small towns in my district, and the smaller towns with no union will now be forced to incur expenses to negotiate with 5 union members, which I think is grossly inefficient and a significant burden on the taxpayers. And I I reached out to all the chiefs in my district, and so for those reasons, I am inexpedient to legislate.
Thank you. Further discussion?
Sure. Since the motion is ought to pass, I'll speak to that, but I guess I'm just a little surprised at some of that information. As someone who's actually negotiated contracts, the resources really depend on, whether it's 5 or 10. I mean, the resources depend on what kind of working relationship there is between management and the town and the union, and in many cases, those run very smoothly. In places like Manchester, where we have multiple contracts, we also have supervisor contracts. There actually is an additional cost because in many cases, they sit at the table, and although ultimately have 2 separate documents, oftentimes negotiate together if that's how they choose. There are some larger unions that decide for whatever reason they don't want to segregate supervisors. I mean, once again, it's the choice of the community, and to suggest that there's somehow going to be additional resources. I guess if you have no union at all, but it is a right for people to assemble and decide that they want to form a collective bargaining agreement. And I would also argue that in terms of cost, I mean, the purse strings, particularly in a smaller town, still rest with the town meeting. So I've negotiated contracts that have failed because the community decides whether they're going to fund them or not. I think this is reasonable. It's particularly reasonable given the size of some of our communities. I mean, that a degree of security and the professionalism of allowing a group to organize, I think is something that, given some of our workforce issues and some of the dangers we may face down the road in some of our small communities, attracting particularly police, fire, and even public works employees, I think it would be a mistake not to allow this to move forward. So for those reasons, I'm going to support the ought to pass.
Thank you, Senator.
Just a quick question, Senator. With having more input, doesn't that make more sense, though? I mean, if you, instead of reducing it from 10 to 5, I mean, what is the reasoning behind that?
There are some communities where you have 7 or 8 employees. And right now, in the state law, it says that you must have 10 in order to form a collective bargaining unit. So this would allow a smaller number.
I see.
So 8 people could come together and say that we would like to be certified as a bargaining unit, and then begin their process of organizing and negotiating with the town. Right now, they're precluded. So the majority of communities in this state where you have employees less than 10, all are precluded, but there's a fairly significant number that don't get that opportunity.
Very good. Any further discussion? Okay, on the motion of ought to pass, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Nay. Do I have that failed for the motion under consideration?
I'd like to make the motion of inexpedient to legislate.
I'll second.
Further discussion? Or are we sort of,
I think we've said it.
okay, that's what I thought. Sounds good. All in favor of the ITL motion?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
Okay.
I'm taking that out.
I'm gonna let Dan take it out. Can I have him take it out even though it's not here?
I don't think somebody should take it out. It hasn't even cast a vote.
Okay, very good. I'll take it out. Unless, do you want to take it out, Senator?
No.
Okay, thank you. Okay. 74, one left. Do I have a motion on 74?
Inexpedient to legislate?
Any discussion?
I'll second it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would just say on this one, I recognize some of the concerns that were raised, and the current language of the bill, particularly the lack of definition for good standing and a couple other things that are in the legislation are technical issues. I would prefer to re-refer because I do think the issue has merit. If you dig a little more into some of the Labor Department statistics, there are a number of good employees, but there are a few bad actors that are not good about tracking leave time. And I think notice to employees is very important. I think a lot of employers do a fantastic job. Certainly anyone that's part of a collective bargaining agreement, usually pretty clear, although even with that, there are disputes about leave time and when it's accrued. For example, if somebody is on short-term disability, does that mean they're no longer accruing leave time? I mean, there are a lot of questions that are not easily answered unless you have a very, very thorough policy. So as I say, I think the issue has some merit. I wouldn't support an ITL, but I would support a re-refer.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead.
First, I want to say that Representative Cahill, really, his intentions are really good, and he really worked hard on this bill. And we've gone back and forth, and I want to recognize that. But even though his intentions were good, I think there are too many unintended consequences. And I think for me, with all due respect, I just feel like there's too many things wrong with House Bill 74. Some of the things that I have a concern about are that more employers have moved toward paid time off policies that do not discern between their vacation and sick time. And the bill really doesn't contemplate other types of benefit packages that employers offer to remain competitive and provide the type of additional benefits that work best for both employer and employee. And, finally, I mean, there in states that have enacted this, employers tend to have a stricter use it policies and less flexibility for both the employer and the employee. As this law changes causes the entire liability to be carried on the books. The towns would have to budget and tax on the maximum accrual cost in order to be compliant with GAS and GAAP accounting standards. From the testimony that we had, we learned that the vast majority of employers pay out this benefit upon separation and have policies that ensure compliance, which is already in state law. And again, I want to commend the sponsor for, having his heart in the right place, but I just feel that this is very problematic for the state. So I still stand by the motion of inexpedient to legislate.
Any further discussion? Okay, we'll move. All in favor of ITL?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
Want to take it out? Very good. Senator Rashadi will take it out. And
Motion to move out of exec?
thank you.
Second.
All in favor of
Aye.
moving out?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. Very good. Thank you all. Thanks for a good year. I missed you for the last little bit.
We missed you too, Mr.
Great.
Chairman.
We're happy that you're back.
Happy you're
Thanks for
back.
having me back. Okay. See you all next year.